I was 15 years old when I first fell in love. In a very complex world, it allowed me to make sense of human beings and human behavior. For a 15-year-old, that was quite a discovery. And it's called the law of demand. And the law of demand only says that when the price goes up, the quantity demanded goes down. And what fascinated me about this curve was that it was talking about something that was universal. It didn't matter whether I was sitting here in Bangalore, whether I was in America, whether I was in Australia. This very simple downward sloping curve basically meant that we human beings are somehow similar. We are very rational in the choices we make. And it represented something quite fundamental. Now, this made me fall in love with economics. And what economics taught me is that we, as human beings, are rational actors. We are driven by incentives. Our innovation, our quest for progress is sort of shaped by these forces. And last but not the least, the market forces that ensure that there is progress. But what really made me not so thrilled was the fact that we live in a world where we have rising inequities, we have power struggles, we have underdevelopment, and we have climate that is at the tipping point. So if everything was working perfectly, if all our rational choices would lead us into a world that was going to look great, why do we fail to resolve some of the greatest problems facing humanity? We always do what we think is best for us. It's very natural. It's very human. We do what we think is good for us. That's a starting point of the story. And that is at the foundation of the modern world, of economics, of business, of society. That's what it is all about. I do what is best for me. What if I is the problem? Could I be the problem that is scaling up into the problems that we see around us? Identity as a fundamental building block of our existence. The wave wants to excel, wants to do the best it can for itself. But the wave also has a second identity. And that identity is that the wave is also the sea. If for 1 minute it parks its identity as the wave, it'll discover very naturally that it is the sea. Now, the attitude of the sea is very different, because the sea looks at the wave and it looks at all the waves and says, this is me. It doesn't go and differentiate between different waves, whether they are big or small. It thinks they're all mine. In fact, it's me. Now, the wave has its own limited time of glory. Beyond that, the wave disappears into the sea. Because the wave is fundamentally not different from the sea. It is the sea. It's only thinking that it is the wave. What if I am more than what I think I am? I am looking like a wave, and I am a very intrinsic part of this sea of humanity. So the core question I have for us is this: am I the individual wave, or am I the collective sea, or am I both of them together at the same time? What is it that I am? Most of us would say, I am the wave. How can I be the sea? It's a choice. one of the first consequences is underdevelopment. Because investment flows into places where there's money, where there's returns. If you have money to invest, you would invest in places where it gives you the greatest return, not where it makes the maximum impact. Wealth accumulates, it stays, and it is all about the wave becoming a bigger wave. But when the identity transcends and becomes a broader identity, then wealth circulates. It's more effective in its deployment. The wave identity says, this is my country. I can drill as much as I want. This is my country and I'll do whatever I want. But when you have a broader identity, you're more responsible. A narrow identity leads us to extreme competition. A broader identity makes us cooperate with one another. A narrow identity makes me think only about myself. A broader identity makes me think about our collective. A narrow identity focuses on me resolving my own problems. A broader identity talks about what are our problems. A narrow identity makes it okay to exploit the planet. A broader identity says, this planet is mine and I need to care for it. A narrow identity makes me start up for numbers. A broader identity makes me scale up for impact. That's the only difference that we have between the two. What exactly these identities do to our thinking and to our behavior. Many problems that we see are created by that narrow identity, and they can be resolved by us having a broader sense of who we are. As a 15-year-old, I fell in love. I did fall in love with that curve because that curve told that we are all similar. You and I are similar. That curve told me that we have very similar preferences. As I grew up, I fell in love with the wave because the wave told me that we are not separate. In the sea, we are all one. That's why I fell in love with the wave. So what exactly am I asking of you? Am I asking of myself? Am I asking of every one of us? Adapt your identity to something broader. It could be something as simple as getting up in the morning and saying, what can I do this day for us, from the world around me, rather than simply saying, what can I do about myself this day? Impact will naturally follow. Impact will naturally follow because the problems of humanity are no more problems that belong to them, but they are ours. A wave is limited, it's extremely competitive, and it is transient. It lives for some time and then it moves on. By contrast, sea is vast. It is about contributing. It's about contribution. And the sea is timeless. Be the sea, not the wave. Thank you.